So, hello and welcome back to the Potted RV. My name is Constance. I'm kind of doing something a little bit different. I've been kind of out of it for about a week. I haven't really done much in the way of recording, and that is because we are coming into the hottest part of the year for this area, and I can't see with them and I can't see without. It's the joy of needing glasses. It's hot enough most days that, in all honesty, I don't want to be out here. I come out for like 5 minutes to go ahead and check the garden to make sure everything's going okay, and everything isn't exactly going okay. So one of the things that I decided I would do as a video, and it's not one that had been suggested or requested by anybody, it's just one I started thinking about. I just moved here in April, and I'm coming from a desert climate. I might have more than 30 years off and on of gardening experience in my life. I'm still in transition from one environment to another. For those of you that don't watch me regularly, I'm in zone 7B8A. I'm literally directly on the borderline where my zip code actually shows up with the USDA with both. So I'm technically in the category of both. It doesn't get as hot here as it did in Arizona, but it's far more humid. And I have breathing issues. I don't do well with humidity. So I decided I wanted to go over the things that I have failed on. I have a lot of experience, and I have family members that also have a lot of experience that have also seen a lot of failures in recent changes in environment. Now, in one case, she didn't really go that far. She only went a little west. I think she's a little east of where she's used to gardening. But it's enough of a difference, not climatic, but enough of a difference in microclimate that she's had some failures that she's been gardening longer than I have. And I know for a fact they would not have been failures if it hadn't been things that she's not accustomed to has changed on her. So I'm also experiencing that. And I have a fly just wants to eat me so bad. I figured most channels, they touch on their failures, but they briefly touch on it and move on. I don't want to do that. I want people who are getting into it to realize there really is no such thing as a green thumb or a brown thumb. Gardening is a skill, and a skill can be learned. And anyone can learn that skill. It's a matter of whether or not you have an interest in it. And my hair and everything is pinned back and out of my face entirely because of the heat. I'm trying to manage to not cook here. So one of the big things is the tomatoes, the Better Bush tomatoes that I had blossom and drop come up. It's come up again. And it keeps coming up. It'll crop one crop and they'll be fine. And it looks like I've got everything under control. And then when I pull all of those, the very next crop that crops also has blossom and drop. So it's one of those things that I'm not real sure, and I do know that has a lot to do with the soil because those were a purchase plant. The soil that the nursery had used, and more than likely was an inferior soil, and they just heavily fertilized it to get it to its size. That's not uncommon. It really isn't. It's one of the reasons why I prefer, but most of my seed starting equipment is actually in another state. I prefer to do it myself, but I am missing a lot of my gear is not here. Another thing is placement. I was aware when I placed my zucchinis that they're very close to the fifth wheel. And I knew how big they get. I've grown them every year for many, many years. But I didn't take into consideration that as they got bigger, they would dip under the fifth wheel itself and be shaded out all the time. That's what's happening now. So I'm actually probably, if I have enough of the season, and I think I do, but I've got to look at the dates, I'm probably going to go ahead and do another planting. But I'm also dead certain that I've placed one in a bad place. And that's, you might be able to see it, is in between this blueberry and this garden ornament right here. And that is the Minnesota midget melons. I really do think that they're not going to do too well because I'm not seeing a whole lot of growth on them, even though they've sprouted. I don't think I'm going to see a whole lot if I don't move them to where they're shaded by the fifth wheel at the end of the day, like most everything else is, except the herbs and this blueberry. The herbs, for the most part, it's the two basils. They've gotten big enough that, in fairness, they shade out everything else, and that doesn't bother me. I have to cut them back pretty heavily, especially the Thai basil. That Thai basil has, and I will show you, I've already cut a third of this plant back, and I'm still going to have to go in and cut more. But I'm also seeing, as of recently, and I do want to give a very great thank you to Fresh and Fire, and I will link her channel down below. She gave me a recommendation some time back about using Captain Jack's, and that is what I've gone to doing, and I will also link the product itself. I've been having pest pressure that I've never experienced before, and it's entirely because I'm not familiar with the fauna in this particular area. There is I thought it was a potato beetle. It looks really similar, but it attacked my dill really, really heavily. And it didn't attack the dill flowers, it attacked the dill seeds. I did get, when I did the seed video, I did get those seeds situated. So they're still in the giveaway. And I will link all the information about the giveaway in the description as well. That giveaway is still going on. I do believe it's till August 5th. I'll have to look for certain, but I do believe it's August 5th that I originally did the cutoff date for that. That is still going on, and the email will also be linked because I got told by a few people that they were struggling to find the email on my About page, so I will link the email. If you want to enter, it'll be linked in my description down below as well. So I'm going to take you on a walk through and discuss what have we succeeded at, what we failed, mostly the failures. This is kind of my end of spring, beginning of summer, what failed. I think it's a good thing to touch on. Also, failures are part of gardening, so don't ever think that your failures mean you just aren't any good at it. They are a lesson in this climate. They're a lesson in this particular plant. Oftentimes, in all honesty, when you're dealing with certain species of plants, if they're not bred for your climate, it takes a few seasons of really crappy harvests before you actually get a decent crop off of it that will hold, because it has to, I want to say evolve, but it doesn't. It has to, over some generations, acclimate. Because, yeah, it is, in a way, evolving, but not really. It's acclimating to your climate through generations. And that's what we're going to have to understand. Sometimes our failures, that's what they are. Is not necessarily a failure in you making a mistake. It very well could be the seed variety you tried wasn't ready for your climate. You might get one or two, convert those to seed, replant them, and see how you go. Over time, you'll build up that particular genetic line of that variety will build up an immunity or a tolerance to your climate, your region, and it will do better. I learned that the hard way in Arizona, I'll tell you. Arizona is one of those climates that is very, very difficult to get rhubarb to grow. I absolutely love rhubarb. Rhubarb, because it is a rhizome plant, I try it every year. Most people, if they do grow it there, they grow it as an annual. And I kept trying to just bring it in house during their growing winter is actually in summer. It's right now in Arizona, it's well above 110 degrees, and it still hasn't really cooled off. They are starting to cool off a little bit, but their idea of cooling off is 1 degree. It ain't cool enough, trust me. Because last month, I guarantee you, they touched at least 115 one day, and probably haven't come down from 110 since probably May. They probably haven't seen a day what was less than 110, unless something's changed, which I doubt. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to walk you through what really isn't a success, even though it somewhat looks like it because it's growing and it's doing okay. It's not a success. It's not producing anywhere near what it should have produced, and I know that. So I'm going to take you through it. So we're going to start up here where the beginning of my garden in my view is, and that's because this is where the truck comes. So I have already pulled this fruit off because I wanted to show this is the same better bush tomato that I had dealt with blossom end rot, and we now have it again. That's the blossom head, and that's definitely blossom end rot. Now I have one or two fruit here that do have some rough issues, but they're not seeing blossom end rot. So I kind of half hoped that I might get at least one or two, and then I'm just going to go ahead and rip this whole plant out. I have other ones in the same bed over here that are from seed I planted myself, and I just think it's a better bet to go ahead and rely on the ones I've done myself, although I do need to fertilize this bed. I can see some leaf curl here that needs to be dealt with. But I'm also seeing something else that I gotta address. I just noticed that one of the water lines is off. So this right here, which this one leaf is looking terrible. It got attacked by grasshoppers today. It didn't look like so bad till today. But the reason why they're attacking it is because it is stressed. Very definitely stressed. And it's stressed because I can't stake it up because it's gotten out of hand, to be honest. And it is now growing underneath the fifth wheel, so it's not getting enough sun. It still has some decency going on, And one thing I am going to cover is this. This is powdery mildew, and definitely powdery mildew. So I am going to go ahead and cover that, and I'll do that in a different video. The best way to handle that, just as a quick reference, just is a 1-to-3 ratio of milk and water, and it does have to be cow's milk. It can't be almond milk or something like that. It needs to be cow's milk, and then you just spray them down. It's one of the best things you can choose to do. So, as I said, I'm having a lot of attacking issues in this bed. These are the beans, and they took, sorry about that, they took far longer than I expected, but I am starting to see, if I can get over here, I'm starting to see some bean pods, finally, which is nice, but I am going to have to really treat them pretty heavily. And so I don't consider them necessarily a failure, although I did when I first planted them. However, this I'm not sure. This is the Space Master 80 cucumber, and I'm not seeing as much die out as a lot of I'm seeing a lot of die out anyways of fruits, but I'm not seeing it as much as I'm seeing it on this one. This one has something going on. I'm not sure what's going on, but when I pull the vine up, if I can come in a little closer, you can see I have huge amounts of just straight up die off. It's really, really strange, and I'm not sure what to do about it, in all honesty. That's the other zucchini. That was the one my husband talked me into saving instead of doing what I wanted to do with it, and that was throw it out. And I'm somewhat grateful, although it's not producing well. Neither one of them are. So I do consider them both failures. This right here, I'm not sure if I'm going to mark it as a failure yet or not. It's getting attacked by bugs, so it's not really a failure if I can still save it. That is the eggplant. And that attacking happened in the last day or two. And I'm not sure what's going on about it. Well, we'll see how it snaps out. Now, I don't consider this a failure. I really don't. This is my bell pepper. This bell pepper, which is now throwing massive amounts of flowers, is actually produced more bell peppers than I've ever had a bell pepper produce. So, I'm not sure what to think of that. But these are the winter squash. And like I said, when I get down to them, I will explain. They are the reason why, because they should be growing just as fast as the melons, but they're growing faster, a lot faster. They're the reason why I think I need to move the melons over here. I think they're in a bad place, and I think they need to be moved. This looks rough and looks like it's failure. It is not. That's my Tiny Tim tomato. That is still producing really, really heavily. It's a normal thing for tomatoes as they get older and start to just kind of crap out. This is what they do. But now, for the most part, these guys are, and they look rough. This is the sweet potato bed. It looks rough, and it has been attacked by bugs, but in all honesty, they're pretty resilient, and I've cut a lot of it back, so it's okay. Now, these guys right here, I'm not sure what to think of. I'm going to get down real close. These are, let's see if I can find, yeah, these right here. These seedlings right here are ground cherries. I've never grown ground cherries before, ever. So I really don't know. We'll see how they go. Uh, Obviously, my blueberries are not ones I consider failures. They kind of get out of hand with me. This blueberry, I think I need to change the watering head and have it water a bit more, but that's okay. So, strawberries. And I have done several videos on strawberries, and I don't consider this a success or a failure. I have lost quite a bit of them for obvious reasons. I'm actually not concerned because these were ever-bearing, and not ever-bearing, these were June-bearing, and I really don't have an interest in June-bearing, so I'm not really caring if I lose them or not. But I won't lose all of them. Lose some, but not all. So, we come to the blueberry. Now we come to, let me see if I can come into them. So, those are the Minnesota midget. You see how much yellower they are? And they're not very big. They're much smaller, and I bet you anything they've kind of dried out a little bit. They have. And that's entirely because this part of the garden it's constantly in the sun. So they're never getting any shade at all. And that stems a bit of a problem. So that back there is the San Marzam tomatoes. Those tomatoes are showing signs of black spot. So I've gone through and treated them. I'm not sure if I'm going to use them at all or not, because when I pulled the first cropping off of them, they had black spots. I wasn't able to take photographs of it, so if I catch photographs of it, I catch more fruit that has it, I'll photograph it. So I have cut down the dill. That's something else that the jalapeno isn't producing like I'm used to, but I think again that it has a lot to do with the heat. This area gets a lot more sun and whatnot. The heat-loving plants enjoy it, but not all of them are heat-loving. That is a heat-loving plant, but no plant likes being bombarded by the sun constantly. So this was the dill, and I just saw something that I do need to pull. Otherwise, I'm going to have a problem. And that's seeds from that thing. That is the Thai basil. But we'll come back to that in a minute. So this dill, I went ahead and cut completely down. It was ready to cut down. It had huge amounts of beetles on it. It was dumbfounding, to be honest. These guys, because they're shaded out by these two, are fine. They're happy and healthy. These two don't seem to mind the heavy amounts of light. So I will end up probably doing a shade bit over them. But I'm going to have to do something about that. And this is starting to push out, but I've grown my brain just lost the name of that. I've grown rosemary forever and ever and ever, since I was about 20 years old. I was gifted a rosemary sprig when my ex-husband and I bought a house, and I had that rosemary forever. I enjoy rosemary. Yeah. This is sweet basil. It's gone crazy. It does all the time. I've never had trouble with sweet basil or Thai basil. I mean, those two plants are, actually the sweet basil is a little bit taller, But as you can see, I've gone through and cut that back by a third, and it's still that large, and I still need to cut more back. I need to cut more back on this side before I get it considered okay, and that allows me to go ahead and net from here back to about here so that these guys can get some shade over on this way, because they're getting too much sun. I'm almost certain of it. I have not had any trouble with my roses, except this one. This one right here just does not seem to be a happy rose, but I'm going to probably this weekend switch them all to where they're on sprinkler heads instead of the drips. I'm having a lot of trouble with those drip lines in this heat. And the drip lines are great in a regular system where you're not dealing with heavy amounts of beating down sun. But once you get into this point, I think they're a bit much. So those are the basic mistakes and failures I've had. It's one of those things that I don't care how long you've been doing this, you're going to have failures, especially if you move to a new area. That's a normal thing to go through. There's nothing wrong with it. You haven't completely, truly failed until you give up. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.